into a single variable. A collection is nice because we can carry all many values around in one convenient package, right? You can group all the related values into one group, and you assign it a single variable that becomes a list. Let us look at the how the list appears to be. We have one list called as the friends. There are three items here: Joseph, Glenn, and Sally, and these collection of values we generally call it as one list. And there is another one which we call it as socks, shirt, and perfume. This is another list which contains three items in it. One is socks, shirt, and the perfume, and the name of this list has been given as carry on, right? So it's all of you, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That is a list is something like it's a collection where you're putting all the values into a single variable. And this is one example of how the collection appears to be, or a list appears to be, right? Here we have two collections. For the first one is the friends, and second one is the carry on, and collectively we call each one of them as the list. So what is the what uh, wait like what are the things that we cannot call it as a collection? Most of your variables have only one value in them. When you put a new value in the variable, the old value is going to be overwritten. A variable which is carrying only one value, we cannot call it as a collection. A collection of variables, we generally call it as a list. And in case of the variables, when a new value is assigned to the variable or existing variable, the old value will be overwritten. Look at this example. We have something called as x equal to 2 and x equal to 4 here. Initially x has been assigned with or initialized with 2, so it is still holds 2. So when I reassign the value, that is x equal to 4, means it becomes now 4, and old value will disappear. That is nothing but the variables, right? We cannot call them as the list. Okay. And look at the constants here, how we are going to use the constants. List constants are surrounded by square brackets, and the elements in the list are separated by the comma. The best way, the way of printing or assigning the list constants is that we're putting all the values or the elements into a square bracket, within a square bracket, and each element is separated by a comma. The list element can be any Python object, or even in another object as or another list as well. I have some difficulty in connecting the things. There are some disturbances, right? So bear with the things. Hello, all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there are some connections
Yes,
issue
sir.
here. Okay, anyhow, I'll continue here as and when the connection problem appears. I'll just note convey the things, right?
Okay, sir.
So look at this one. List constants are surrounded by the square brackets, and the elements in the list are separated by the commas as well. Look at this one. The first example states, what do you mean by a list, right? I am printing a list here, that is 1, a comma, 24, then a comma, and 76, and all these three elements are enclosed within a square brackets. They all called as one list here. And the print, when you print it, it will print the elements along with the brackets, right? Bracket, then followed by the element 1, element 2, and element 3. And even you can use the strings as your list elements or the list constants. and it appears something like print red, yellow and blue. When you print it, it will print the values right, red, yellow as well as blue on the terminal. And here as well you can use the different combination of the variables as well, right? So in this case we have used only the decimal numbers, and in this case we have used string constants, whereas in the third example you just look at, you can use different combination of the elements. The first one is a string, and second one is an uh, decimal number, and third one is the floating point number. Still it is valid, right? You can use different data types in a list, right? Output appears like this. Your output line appears, right? 2498.6. And the second one what you have seen is that a list element can be in any Python object, even in another list as well. Look at this. I am printing a list here, that is one, then comma, another list here, or an Python object, which is nothing but an Python object. And this Python object is again a list as well, right? 5 and 6, then comma and 7. When you print it, it will have an embedded list here, and a list within another list, a list within another list. Okay, that is called as one comma, a list, wow, that is 5 and 6 within another list, right? And followed by 7, and followed by a list can be an empty list, right? You don't have, you do not have to have elements within a list. You can have, you don't have anything at all, right? That is what is the empty list. So these are the few points regarding the list constants. List constants are surrounded by square brackets, and the elements in the list are separated by the commas, right? So that is exactly one you have. So all the elements list constants are separate or enclosed within a square bracket, and each element is separated by a comma. And you can have any combination of the data types, right? Either you can have only the strings, only the decimal numbers, or only the float numbers, or a combination of anything, right? Like here we have string and decimal number and a floating point number. And a list a list element can be another list as well. Look at this one, 1 comma 5 and 6 and 7. This is another example, right? And a list within another list, we generally call it as the embedded list, and that is also allowed within the list constant. And a list can be an empty list as well. You need not have to have an element inside a list, so it can be a empty list as well, right? Something like print only the two brackets, right? You just put it, so it is going to print only the list without having any elements at all. So we already come out with some list in the last examples, in the last sessions as well. So look at this one. For I in 54321, what you have done is that you are reading each element. You are reading each element, right? Hemavati, Hemavati, can you hear me? Hemavati,
Yes, sir.
what do you mean? What is this I? My example, what I have given? What is this I? You have for I in 54321, right? So what is the name of this I here? Yes. How you call this I? Yes.
Sir, ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಇವಾಗ ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆದೆ.
Well, join adrilry. This is done in the last few sessions, right? Ulgesh. Ulgesh. Yogesh, are you there? Yogesh, Jyoti.
Yes, sir.
So what is this I?
Yes, sir.
What is this I is called as? Yes,
ಸರ್ ನಾನು ಇವಾಗ ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆದೆ ಸರ್, ನಿನ್ನೆ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಇವಾಗ
ಆಗಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ.
ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆದೆ ಸರ್, ನಿನ್ನೆ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ.
Allama, this is done in the last few classes, not only yesterday. It is done in almost all the sessions, right? So we have come out with one or two example of I, right? What is that I? Saroja, Saroja HT.
ಹಾ ಸರ್.
So what is that I called as? ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀರದಕ್ಕೆ? Yes,
ಸರ್ ಇವಾಗ ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆದೆ.
ಇವಾಗಲ್ರಿ.
ಇವಾಗ
This
ಜಾಯ್ನ್
is
ಆದೆ
done.
ಸರ್.
This is done in the last few classes. We have started with the iterations, right? In the iteration as well, I have dealt in detail about this I. What is that I called as? Yes, Pallavi. Pallavi.
Yes, sir.
What is that I called as? Huh?
Iteration.
Iteration. We call it as iteration.
How many iterations?
Yes. How many iterations?
Yes, sir.
How many iterations you are using it, right? Ashwini.
Yes, sir.
So what is that I called as?
Iteration variable.
Very good, right? So what is the outcome of this one? You already seen here, right? I already displayed it on the terminal. But what do you what it will do in each iteration? Yeah, in the first iteration, what it will do?
It will
Yes. In the first iteration, what happens?
print one by one.
Hmm? It will print
One by one variables according to
according to
ascending orders.
ascending order, right? Okay, not in ascending order, not in any order you have specified it. It will print the entire list, right? It starts from the first variable or first element of the list. It will print in the first iteration. It will be copied to I, that is the iteration variable, and it is going to print the value of the first element. In the second iteration, it will take the second element from the list and it will print that value on the terminal. Like this, it will for nth iteration. After nth iteration, it will print all the elements of the list and you can see it on the output. The only advantage of the I the iteration loop is that it will check the boundaries on itself, right? Unlike your while loop where you're supposed to do it manually, right? For each iteration you have to check whether you have reached the end of the list or not. But in this case, what it is done is that the for loop will take care of the boundary of the list itself. It right once all the elements have been read from the list, so it will exit or it will come out of the for loop and it will proceed with the other instructions, right? So that is what the advantage of the for loop. And in this one we are using an iteration variable called as I, which is going to read each element from the list, and it will do all the operations later, right? In this case we have only print instructions. You have only a print instruction. That's why it will print all the elements from the list, not necessarily in ascending order or descending order, doesn't matter. It will print all the elements in whatever the sequence it is in, right? So once the for loop is over, so it will print a message called as the blast off, right? So and here is one more example of the the list. We have something called as one list called as a friends equal to Joseph, Glenn, and Sally. So what you will do is that you are reading each element from the list. So what is that list? We have three elements: Joseph, Glenn, and Sally. So it will print, or it will read each uh, element from the list, right? So first element is Joseph, that will be copied to friend. So happy new year, Joseph. It will print something what is happy new year, Joseph. In the second iteration, it will copy the second element from the list, that is Glenn, will be copied to friend, happy new year, Glenn. In the third iteration, it is going to copy Sally into friend, and it is going to print happy new year, Sally. And finally there are no more elements in the list, so it will the execution will come out of the for loop, and it will print something called as a done, right? So the whole idea here, in the previous example, I has become uh, the iteration variable, whereas in this case friend is nothing but an iteration variable, right? So, and friends are nothing but the list what you have, and which contains three elements in it, which contains three elements in it, right? And it is the for loop will read each element for from the list. For each iteration, it is going to read one element from the list, and it is going to print it on the terminal, right? So look at how the list appears inside the memory, right? So just like your arrays, right? Each character or each number uh, is going to occupy one memory location, right? And in case of the list, each element, right, each element in the list is going to occupy one index in the list, right? So look at this example. I have something called as a friends is equal to Joseph, Glenn, and Sally, and Joseph is going to occupy uh, index number 0, Glenn is going to occupy index number 1, Sally is going to occupy index number 2, right? So unlike your array where each element or one single element is going to occupy one memory location, but here look at this one. A string is going to occupy a single index. Glenn, it's another string which is going to occupy a single index. Sally is going to occupy one single index, right? So if you want to print any particular index, the best or the way is that print the index number, whatever the index number you want it. That is friends one is nothing but the index number one. What you have stored in index number one, that is Glenn, and it is going to print the value Glenn and the terminal. So just like strings, we can get any single element in a list using an index specified in the square brackets, right? All these elements will have the indexes. This is index 0, index 1, and index 2. So if you want to put, or if you want to put a particular index or the element at that particular index, you just specify the index number within a square bracket, then your job is done, right? That is print friends 1, then a line. So it's going to print line on the terminal, because at index number 1 it is going to the line has been asked to, that's why it's going to print the value line on the terminal. And like the strings which are immutable, what do you mean by immutable? Can anyone tell me?
It cannot be changed, sir.
Huh?
Cannot be changed, sir.
It cannot be changed, right? So as you know that strings are immutable, means you cannot change the contents of a strings once it has been initialized, right? During the execution of the program, you cannot change it. So even if you want to change it, what you can do is that you can make use of the existing string and make the changes, but assign it to some other string. That is the only you can do that, but you cannot change the existing string. So that is what you call it as the immutable. We cannot change the contents of a string. We must make a new string to make any changes. Look at this one. So that is fruit is equal to banana and fruit of 0 is equal to b, right? I want to change it to b here, smaller case b. So it is going to generate an error message stating that you doesn't object doesn't support item assignment because strings are immutable. You cannot change it. So to avoid this one, what you can do is that you can use the functions here, x equals to fruit dot lower. So it is going to change the value. But one thing is that even if you apply this function, even if you call this function, it's not going to alter the original string, right? The fruit is equal to it is there as it is, but only thing is that whatever the changes you have made here, that will be assigned to a new string, and that string we are going to print it here, right? That is banana. Look at the example here. With respect to the lists are mutable. That is, we can change the an element of a list using the index operator. You can change the contents, or you can change the value of a list by just by specifying the index values. Look at the one example of the list here. Look at the example, right? We have something called as a lotto, which is having 2, 14, 26, 41, 63. So what you have, the print letter lotto, so 2, 14, 26, 41, and 63. So now what I'll do is that I want to make changes to the second element, right? Or the second index, right? Lotto of 2 is equal to 28. Now this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. When I make the change, that is lotto of 2 is equal to 28. Now this becomes, instead of 26, it becomes 28, right? You try to print the entire list again, so it will print the message or the updated or the changed value here, that is 2, 14, 28, 41, and 63. And other characters or other elements are unaffected, right? That is 2, 14, 41, and 33. They are not changed here. Only thing is that we have changed the value at index number 2. We have changed the value at index number 2 from 26 to 28, right? We don't know the initial value, but what I am doing is that we're just overwriting the previous content. That's all, right? So we don't know. You do not have to know know what is the initial value of the list. Instead, what you do is that you just overwrite the contents of the existing list element. Right now 26 was the initial element, so what you have written is that we have overwritten it at index number 2. Now it has become 28. That is what the list are uh, mutable, whereas the strings are immutable, right? A string immutable in the sense that once the strings has been initialized, you cannot make any changes, or you cannot change the contents of a string, whereas the list are mutable. We can change an element of a list using the index operator, right? So that is the example of the list are mutable. And how long is the list? That is, if you want to know how what is the length of a list, you can use a function called as the length function to know the length of a list, right? That is, length function, a function takes a list as a parameter and returns the number of elements in the list. That is how many elements you have in the list, and that number of elements will be written by the length function, right? It counts the number of elements in the list and it returns the total number of elements in the list. Actually, length function tells us the number of elements of any set or sequence, right? That is such as a string. It actually, even this length function is going to be applied for the string as well, right? We know it in the last class, or we have studied in the last class. You to know the length of a string as well, you are applying the same function, or you are making use of the same function. The same thing we have did here. That is the length function tells us the number of elements of any set or sequence here, right? So look at the example. Great is equal to hello Bob, right? What you are doing is that I'll just call the function the length greet. Greet is the list what you have or the string what you have it, right? So once you have done it, it will print the value something what as the number of total number of characters in the string. The number of characters is there. This is 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 9 will be get printed on the terminal. And the same function can be used with the list as well. So what how it works? So x is equal to 1, 2, joy, and 99, right? So I have basically 4 elements in the list, right? So I can make use of the same function, that is the length function, and apply it on the list. So I'll get the output as 4, stating that the number of elements in the list is 4, right? Right. So in other words, so otherwise, what do you mean by that? The length function uh, basically it returns the number of elements in the list. Okay, how many number of elements you have in the list, that is going to be written by the list. And actually length function tells us the number of elements of any set or the sequence. The length function can be applied even for the set or a list or a sequence as well. That is exactly how we have worked. In this case, I have applied the length function on a string, whereas in this case I have applied the length function on the list. Okay, and the next one, I can specify the range, right? The range of index that you have in the list, right? So look at this. uh, so in Python 3.x, the range, we have stopped here, right? So let us look at one more function called as the range function. So in Python 3.0, the range function got its own type. In basic terms, if you want to use range in a for loop, then you are good to go. However, you can't use it purely as a list object. For example, you can't slice a range time, right? When you are using an iterator, every loop of the for statement produces the next number on the fly. Note that in the Python 3.0, Python 3.x, you can still produce a list by passing the generator return to the list function, right? So the whole idea is that it is going to print the range of indexes you are using it, right? The range of indexes, all right? What is that range of indexes? You look at this one. I'll first create and create a or call the function that is a range of 4. So it is going to create a range beginning from the index 0 to 4 it is. And what is that? The friends equal to Joseph, Clan, Sally. So what it is that it is going to print the number of elements in the list, right? That is 3, and the range is from 0 to 3. It is going to print it. And to know the length of the string range, or to know the type of the range, you can call the function the type, and it will print you the type or the class name of the class of the uh, uh, class type of the range. And you look at one more example of the things here, that is list, range, length, friends, right? It is first going to print the calculate the number of elements in the friends list. Then what it will do is that it will find the range of the numbers, that is from 0 to 2. Then it will print the elements in that one, that is 0, 1, and 2 it is, right? That is the what you call it as the range function. And here is one more example of the loops here using the range function. So what you are doing is that the friends is equal to Joseph, Glenn, Sally. So what you are doing is that you are printing each and every element from the list, that is happy new year friend, right? And what you're doing is that the same thing has been done using the range function. What you do is that for I in range length from length of friends, that is from 0 to n or from n. So what I'm doing is that range length of friends. Here we have three elements, right? Joseph, Glenn, and Sally. What you're doing is that we're finding the range, right? Range in the sense that 0, 1, 2, and 3. So for each element, what I'm doing is that I'm printing the value, that is friends of I. I is nothing but the range. Initially it is range is 0, so that will be assigned to the iterative variable. It becomes friends of 0. Now it's going to print the value as friend Joseph. In the second iteration, the range value will be 1, so friends of 1, which is nothing but Glenn. And in the third iteration it becomes range is 2, so it is going to print the value as Sally. Something this is how you can make use of the what you call it as range function. And here is one more example of the things, that is from length and friends, right? Length of friends, that is number of 3, and how many numbers you have, and how what is the index, first index of the number, that is from 0 to 3. And how to print the elements here, that is list range length of friends. It's going to print the elements as 0, 1, and 2 it is. Okay, so that is what the things. And also you can concatenate two lists as well, right? So we can create a new list by adding two existing lists together, right? Something like your string, you can also add two existing lists together. So look at this one, I have two lists, that is A and B. A is having 1, 2, 3, and B is having 4, 5, 6, and I can concatenate it, right? C is equal to A plus B. It is nothing but it is the concatenation of A and B. It is right. Then the output appears like 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, right? Because we are concatenating A and B. That's why your output appears like 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. And once you apply the concatenation operation, it's not going to change the original value of the list, any of the two lists. Here we have two lists, right? After concatenation also their elements will not get changed. So look at this example. Even after concatenation, the value or the list is not being compromised here, right? The elements of the list has not been compromised, they are as it is, that is 1, 2, and 3. That is what that is how we can concatenate two lists using a plus operator, right? And you can also slice. What do you mean by slice? Yes, what do you mean by slice? Pardon?
Only a part of the data is open.
Pardon? Part of the
Part of the list is open.
part of the list is slicing, in the sense you are cutting it, right? Or you're fragmenting it, right? So that is what you call it as the slicing. Just like in strings, the second number is up to but not including, right? Slicing in case of the strings, what you have done is that within the brackets we have specified something called as n colon m, right? N is the starting index from where you had to start slicing, where m is nothing but the index where you're supposed to stop the slicing. Where m is not inclusive, it is exclusive. M is exclusive, whereas n is inclusive. That is what they have given it. Just like in strings, the second number is up to but not including, that is the second number is not inclusive, in other words, right? Look at one example here. I have t is equal to 9, 14, 41, 12, 3, 74, and 15. So what I have done is that I want to slice the number, or I want to slice the list here. So what is the slicing here? I'm doing t, then a bracket 1:3 means that beginning from index 1 slice up to 3, excluding 3, it is excluding 3, slice only 1, index 1 and index 2, it is not index number 3. So the output is 41 and 12, right? And the index 1 is 40 and index 2 is 1, it is going to slice only 41 and 12. And look at this example, that is t colon 4, right? If n is absent here, if n is absent means that it is from the beginning of the list. It is nothing but it is from the beginning of the list up to what 4, excluding 4, it is excluding index number 4. So in that one, 0, 1, 2 and 3, and these four elements will be get printed, that is 4, 41, 12 and 3. And similarly t3 colon means that beginning from the index 3 up to the end of the list, that is what beginning from the index number 3 up to the last element in the list. That is that this 0, 1, 2 and 3, this is the beginning index 3, index number 3 up to the last element. What is the last element? 15 is the last element. 3, 74 and 15 will be get printed. And if both n and m are absent, if both n and m are absent, then it would print the entire list, right? So that is from the beginning to the end of the list. With that one, that is the output appears at 9, 41, 12, 3, 74 and 15, it is, right? It is very much similar to, or it is very much similar to what you have seen it for the string, right? So slicing in the sense that you're just extracting a portion of a string, right? The syntax is let us take the string is t and n colon m, it is n is nothing but the starting index and m is nothing but the last index, excluding m, it is excluding m, right? So you're just extracting all the elements, right? And there are few things you're supposed to remember here. N and m are optional. Either m you can write it as write m, or you can write n, or you leave n, or you can leave m, or you can leave both, right? If you leave both, if you don't write anything, both n and m, then the entire list would be printed on the terminal, right? That is how we can slice the list. And how to make use of the what we call it as the methods within the list, right? So there is something called as list x equal to list function. I'm just calling it, and the type of the x is the list. And what is that? You can have the function. What are the functions that is included in the list is append, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse, and the sort. These are all the functions which are there within the list function or the list class, it is, right? So the list is the class, right? And all these functions are defined within the list class. What are those functions? You can append a string, or you can append a list at the end of another list. You can count the number of elements in the list, extend an existing list. You can find the index, or you can insert an element into the list. You can pop an element, you can remove an element from the list. You can reverse the contents of the list, or you can sort the elements of the list. So this is how you can use all the functions with respect to the list. Let us know how to build a list from the scratch, right? We can create an empty list and then add elements using an append method. We have seen here all these functions are there within the list, right? You can use these functions to extend the existing list. We can create an empty list, then add elements using the append list or the append method. The list stays in order, and the new elements are added at the end of the list, right? Even though you add an element, it will be the existing list will be there, and the new element after insertion will appear at the end of the list, right? So that is exactly what you have it. Look at this one. I'm creating a list, that is stuff is equal to list function, right? So then what I'm doing is that stuff dot append is the book, that is a new list has been created. Empty list, actually it is an empty list has been created. What I'm doing is that I'm inserting an element. First element it is book, inserting an element called as book, and the second element I am appending it is 99, and the book appears first, then the 99. And if you print the value or the print the list, it appears that book comma 99, it is book and 99. And if you append one more list, sorry, one more element into the list, what it does, this cookie appears at the end. Look at this one, the list stays in order and the new elements are added at the end of the list. Whatever the new elements you are adding, that appears on at the end of the list, right? Print stuff. So first element what was inserted is book. After that we have appended 99, and the third element what I have appended is cookies, right? They appear in the order they have inserted it, or the order in which they have appended it. That is what the things. So here we have created an empty list, right? The list is empty. Then we have appended the first two elements, right? Then we have printed it, and the next instruction is we have appended one more uh, s- element. Then finally what we have done is that we have printed an element on the, sorry, we have printed the list, the contents of the list on the terminal. Okay, that is what for the today's class. In the next class we'll continue the same topic, right? The list. Do you have any questions?